Kyle Kalinske, come on down. You are the next contestant. So I try not to do too many of these back to back, but I had to do this one. This one needed to be done. So, liberal firebrand and suspected lesbian Kyle Kalinske has started to work with Cenk Uygur and elements of the Bernie Sanders campaign. So they've come together to form Justice Democrats. The goal being to go from one state after the next, beating up regular corporate Democrats and putting in progressives. Look, I've been clear. I love this idea. At the very least, I think it's effective, and I think it can work. And I think between doing something assertive and not doing anything at all, I would rather be doing the assertive thing. Now, for the most part, people have given them credit for this. And they've been getting a pretty decent press buzz, too. But there were questions, right? I mean, but just it. Anytime you have an organization that's just started, you're going to have questions. So, Debbie, Sane Progressive, being what they would probably consider annoyingly ethical and extremely clear-eyed, makes 3 critiques. The first being, look, the people in their orbit needs to be evaluated. Meaning, over the past 20, 30 years, Democrats have become pretty adept at co-opting movements. In co-opting these movements, she's making the case that, look, if you guys have elements of the party in your group, how do we know that you're not being co-opted? So, look, I don't think that's a bad critique, personally. And at the end of the day, I think it just deserves an answer. Look, any group, just starting off, would have people to ask questions. Asking somebody a question to understand how your organization is put together is not undermining your organization. It's just questions. And at the end of the day, I think it's a little worrying that the moment that somebody has those questions, it's taken to this level of undermining or rooting for your failure. That's slightly disturbing, actually. But whatever. At the end of the day, just answer the damn question, and you can move on to the next. I mean, and it makes it look that much more dubious, because then you have to ask, well, is it possible they just can't answer that question? So, second one, electoral fraud. I would say this one is pretty nailed down. And she does an awesome job going through the issues with the election process in this country. But look, it's just to rattle off a few. We have machines that there's no way to even tell if your vote went through adequately. We have situations where a political party can knock people off the rolls. So when they show up to vote that day, that registration does not exist. You have other situations where the person can shut down polls. You have another case where they can gerrymander themselves into office. One issue after another. Debbie she goes further on this though, and she kind of makes this point like, look, if you look at the exit polling versus what the end result was, the disparity between those things was massive, and it was consistent, and it was only ever consistent one way. That should raise an eyebrow, right? And then she makes the second case, is look, by the time they got to California, when they realized that the exit polls weren't matching up, they just got rid of the exit polls. And I remember that one myself. I absolutely was looking for California's exit polls, and I realized, holy shit, they didn't do them. From what I understand, Cal's response to that is it Bernie Sanders in government? Bernie Sanders there, Bernie Sanders there. It seems to believe that just because he has one guy who's an independent in Congress, that there's no issue here. Look, I think the election thing is a fair point. I don't think it's to the degree that I think she thinks it is, but at the same token, I'm not anywhere near as cavalier as him. I don't see why both things can't be done at the same time. Educating the public at the same time of actually running your candidates. So the third one. The third one is the one that I'm warming to a little bit more than I had before. Conflict of interest. So it is an inherent conflict of interest to fuse a political organization to a media organization. And even though that may not sound bad to you now, when it was Hillary Clinton working with CNN or Hillary Clinton working with journalists who was feeding stories back and forth to their campaign, be like, hey, you like this story? Is this okay? We didn't like that at that point, right? I mean, we didn't necessarily like the stories that the Washington Post were running, or the Daily Beast was running, or what's the other one, Media Matters or something. All these people who were Hillary Clinton affiliates and were trashing Bernie Sanders. We didn't think that shit was fair at all. So if she's saying, hey, we didn't think that was fair then, why is it okay now for that to take place? Now, I think that they would probably say as well, but it's stated, meaning our bias is on the table. We put this guy up. But I think if you look at that a little bit harder, that doesn't really solve your case. I mean, in fact, that is other issues that we'll address in a moment. But I've been clear that my feelings have been that I like the organization, I like the idea of the organization. But at the same token, I've also been pretty clear that I think Debbie has strong points. And I think those points should be answered. And I've been on this campaign to get these guys to actually talk, because I kind of want to hear the answers that they provide. And I'm pretty sure she would want to hear them. At the end of the day, nobody wants Justice Democrats to fail. But everybody does want to have a good faith belief that, all right, we just got out of one sketchy situation. Let's not just jump into another one. Of course people are going to have questions. I don't understand why you don't think people would have questions. That blows me away, to be honest. So, after I did my video before saying, hey, answer questions. Come on, TYT, just answer questions. Somebody posted a link to one of the Secular Talks videos, Cal. And the link, from what I understand, I guess, was supposed to be a response. Now, the response wasn't for me, personally. Nobody knows who I am. But at the end of the day, you can tell who the response was aimed at. I'm going to show this in a moment, but I got to be honest. This is the most childish, weakest shit I've seen in 2017. And if this is where they're starting this off, I'll let him make his own point. Go ahead, kid. Do your thing. Make a case.
This is a real movement with real people behind it. So far, it's been a little over a week. $373,000 has been raised so far.
Good job.
Because people understand, I'll give my $27 because this seems like it has a chance of working, and we're really trying to get rid of the corporate Democrats inside the party and make the Democratic Party what it was supposed to be all along. We have 2,420 nominations. So understand, that's not, hey, we have 2,420 people who signed up and said they're Justice Democrats. No, that number's over 100,000. We have 2,420 nominations. People who actually want to run for office. And we're going to vet them, we're going to pick the best ones, we're going to train them, and you're going to sit there and tell me, it has no chance of working, so let me just...
That's the most cowardly shit I've ever seen. Well, maybe not ever seen, that's hyperbole. But that's pretty fucking cowardly. So, understand why I'm saying this is pretty fucking cowardly. He didn't have the balls to name who he was talking about. Like, he's doing this, but understand, many of the people who were criticizing Sane Progressive, they were doing so saying, oh, you're being a defeatist, you're being a nihilist, oh, you're just cynical and blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, those things may or may not be true. Is my question valid? If my question is valid, engage my goddamn question. Why are you acting like a goddamn idiot? Look, he could have just answered her question right there. I mean, after all, he took the time to do a video for this. And the time that it took him to do that, he could have just said, oh, hey, Sane Progressive, this is the information that you asked. But okay.
Get out of the fucking way. Get out of the way. If you agree with our goals, get out of the way. I'm going to put it out there very simple. I know who our enemies are. I know I'm going to fight the Republicans. I know they're going to smear us. I know the corporate Democrats are going to smear us. I'm expecting those attacks. But if you agree with our goals, get out of the way. We got no room for your bullshit. We got no room for undercutting a movement that has a chance of working.
Undercutting a movement.
Again, if you disagree on tactics, fine. You're my ally. You're my fucking ally. If you are in the Green Party and you say, look, man, Justice Democrats, I like you. I like what you're trying to do, but I don't think it's going to work. I think third party is the best way to do it, even though it might be harder with some more institutional disadvantages. I love you. I love you, and when we take over, we'll be passing laws that make it easier for you, because we.
And that's called a bullshit argument. This is why this is called a bullshit argument. He's upset that people are asking him questions, that they're issuing criticism or whatever. But why the hell would a third party, be it Greens or anybody else, why are you so okay with them criticizing you? Because look, at the end of it, the Greens is saying, yeah, those guys are going to be crooked at some point because you can't change the Democratic Party. So you're okay with them saying you're going to essentially end up like the Democratic Party? That's okay. That critique doesn't bother you. Do you think the Greens think that they should be giving you money? Meaning, would the Greens say something like, hey, yeah, donate to Justice Democrats? So they're going to say, no, look, if you're giving to Justice Democrats, you're giving to the Democratic Party. You're okay with that? So it's some criticism you're okay with, but other criticism you're not. I don't know, man. That sounds massively inconsistent. But let's see.
We want third parties are great. We want those voices in the debate. So you're my ally. I'm working with you. But if you agree with our goals and you stand in our way and try to undercut us, that's a special kind of low.
I agree.
So we have three enemies. We have Republicans, we have corporate Democrats, and we have defeatists and political nihilists who say, it's so bad I don't even want to try. Well, when Bernie Sanders is a sitting senator, and our goal is to get Bernie Sanders-like politicians in the Senate, and our goal is to get Bernie Sanders-like politicians in the House of Representatives, for you to say it's impossible is factually wrong. For you to say the fraud is so bad that it can't be done is factually wrong.
What the fuck is he talking about? What is he talking about? That's factually wrong. How is that wrong? How many Bernie Sanders are there in Congress? I mean, yeah, you have one guy who's an independent who got in Congress. What the fucking do? Uncertainty, dude. Look, anything can happen at any particular time. We're talking about a preponderance of the occasions. Again, you're doing this chest thumping shit. Answer the goddamn question. Why are you being so fucking weak?
We are right, you are wrong. We are right, you are wrong. Bernie Sanders is already in the Senate. We're trying to put people like Bernie Sanders in the Senate. It is of course possible. It is just hard.
It's like a child on a tantrum, right? Is this the guy that you really want leading your group? I mean, in short order, they went from, we're starting a movement, we have 200-some thousand people, we have all these people who are together, we're going to be kicking ass and taking Democrats, to, you are right, I am wrong, you are right, I am wrong. Alright, keep going.
But you are wrong! Can I be any more clear than that? You are wrong! Get the fuck out of the way! We're going to fight for getting money out of politics. We're going to fight for universal health care. We're going to fight for free college. We're going to fight to end the wars. We're going to fight to make the minimum wage a living wage. Either get on board or don't. But don't you dare turn around when we succeed and go, oh yeah, Justice Democrats, I was with them all along. I mean, it worked and they did the right thing and they took over the Democratic Party.
Just a quick aside. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought that was Cenk Uygur. Like, Cenk had this thing where he does that. If you ever watch some of his old videos, he has this, he'd be like, you know, either these guys are hanging around that much or he just looks up to him. Either way, it's one grown-ass man mimicking another grown-ass man, and that's kind of funny. Go ahead, dude. Finish your statement.
By the way, there's further evidence that this is going to work. What the Tea Party did worked. People aren't going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you that. But what happened? The Tea Party came along. It was basically the Republican Party saying, we're going to take it over. Sorry, we're going to cleanse all the establishment Republicans. Fast forward to today. Republican president, Republican Senate, Republican House, Republican state legislatures, Republican governors. Majority everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. And completely unnecessary. Cal, you realize that you're now a political body, right? You're not just a media thing now. You're actually in politics. Nobody told you to do that. You guys decided to do that. And since you've decided to do that, politics and criticism are inseparable. And look, whether you realize it or not, you are kind of making Debbie's point. So let me make this case. I'll put it this way. What's the role of media? Like, what do you see news? What do you see the job of news? Well, of course, it's to inform the public, but it's also to hold power accountable. Our job is to give the public information. The public can take that information and make a decision on what they want to do, where they want to live, who they want to see, where they want to go. It is a noble profession. And at the end of the day, your job is truth. At least to discern it to the degree that you can figure it out. But to that noble organization, you're attaching it to another organization that is awash in lies. In fact, truthfulness is usually a pain in the ass to a politician. Now, you might say, well, our politicians are going to be perfectly ethical, so there's never going to be a conflict of interest. You could say that. I would not believe that. If you would agree with me, though, that if you put a candidate up and you stump for that candidate and you interviews and speeches and all this good stuff, and that candidate turns around and screws over your audience, do you think you're going to be injured by that? Do you think that there's going to be a certain percentage of your audience that just says, yeah, I'm done. Yeah, they fucked me over, I'm done? Of course there is. Yeah, there are all sorts of people out there. Yes, there is. If 20-30% will hurt. It will absolutely hurt. So, second question. Should we expect you to be biased in your coverage of your particular candidate? Should we expect you to be overly critical of coverage of other people's candidates? Are you going to do stories on your candidate at all? I mean, you see what I'm getting at, right? Even if you do a story on your candidate, is it going to be a softball? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to be harsh? Are you being overly critical of the other person? Because that is the structural incentive, right? Your media organization, you're affiliated with one particular candidate. You're analyzing another candidate. Can you actually be fair to the candidate that you're analyzing? Can you be critical of the other guy who's supposed to be your team? What if you guys came across information that got across something that your person did that was ghastly? The incentive is for you to hide that story, because you can be harmed either in your media wing and you can be harmed politically. You guys have a conflict of interest. Can we expect you to be honest when you're giving those stories? And the very act that I have to ask that question insinuates the incentive structure. I mean, I'm sorry, dude. The incentive structure of this just goes in one direction. Bad. I mean, nobody can listen to your coverage of your particular candidate and take you as anything being as other than biased. Now, you might say, well, yeah, of course we're biased. Yes, you're biased. That means you're biased to the other candidates also, if you're showing bias to your own candidate. Now, you might say, nope, our ethics are beyond reproach. You know, the irony is, one of the big things about getting money out of politics is that having money in politics allows them to bribe politicians. It's creating an incentive structure that have politics move further to the right to get towards corporate interests. Essentially, they're getting paid for favors. Now, and of course, You're bribing them, of course. They're doing the favor. Why is it okay for that incentive structure, for them to fail at that incentive structure? But we're supposed to expect that the incentive structure that you guys are about to undertake is going to be above reproach. Because that is the incentive. The incentive is for you to hide certain stories that are unfavorable to your candidate. Because if those stories come out, it will hurt your business and your candidate. How was there not a conflict? What you should do is have a conversation with Debbie. And not get on here and do some stupid shit like this. Be a goddamn adult. Answer the woman's questions. The questions that she's asking you are right. And look, when is the last time you seen Cal act that way? Have you ever seen Cal just lose his shit like that? People are giving him factual information about electoral fraud. They're giving him factual information about, hey, this particular guy has some kind of association with this other guy. You may want to look out for that. Dismissive of it all. And instead takes it to the degree of, you're trying to undermine me. Get the fuck out the way. Why do you think he's acting that way now? Justice. Democrats. He has a dog in the hunt. You can't expect people to be biased. And look, I'm not trying to say that they're intentionally unethical. That's not it. As a human being, it is built within a bias in that sense. I'm just saying. The whole point of a bias is that it's easier to go a particular path than not because it advantages you. But okay, you don't want to have a conversation. You don't want to talk to her. I would recommend that nobody give them a damn dime until they have that conversation with Debbie. Because if they can't deal with the small questions that people have, if they can't deal with the people who they want to actually support them, criticizing them, and asking for information, it's hypocritical. Anybody who's watched TYT can see how much heaping criticism you guys put on everybody else. So yeah, so go fuck yourself on that. And B, it looks bad that you can't answer the damn question. So, yeah. Answer the latest questions, Justice Democrats. And Jank, you need to get your boy, man. He's losing his shit on TV. If you guys want to keep an organization, and you guys want a situation that actually works, and that people want to help you make that work, this ain't it. This ain't it. Thanks, guys.